When street youth are discussed in public debates about crime, we usually focus on them as the offenders and not as the victims of crime. And this comes from long-standing views about street youth, that they're dangerous, bad kids, young people who leave home for frivolous reasons and once on the streets get involved in gangs and crime, that kind of thing. So these public debates tend to focus on street youth as the problem. It is they that we must be wary of. It is they who are chasing away tourists. It is they who are making our streets unsafe. And what these kind of notions of street youth miss when we talk about them as offenders is that street youth are actually much more likely to be victims of crime than to be perpetrators of crime. So this research project is addressing that issue, the victimization of street youth. Well, this research was done with an organization called Justice for Children and Youth, and we interviewed over 200 young people on the streets of Toronto who are homeless and asked them a range of questions about their lifestyle, their lives, their involvement in crime, and their experience as victims of crime. In our research, we found that street youth are much more likely to be victims of crime than the average Canadian. In any given year, about 25% of Canadians are victims of one crime or another, ranging from small things to more serious kinds of crime. In our research, we found that over 80% of street youth reported being victims of crime, and most of them were victims on more than one occasion. And that covers all kinds of crime: robbery, theft, sexual assault. One of the really disturbing things we found was that young women who are homeless, 50% of them reported being victims of sexual assault. And altogether, this shows that street youth as a group tend to be very victimized. And so when we think about crime and homelessness, we need to think about the fact that street youth are really a vulnerable population in Canada. This research is particularly important, I think, to policymakers. In Canada, we pride ourselves in our response to homelessness, the fact that we provide community services to help people while they're homeless. But one of the things we also do while people are homeless is criminalize their activities, everything from panhandling to squeegeeing. In year 2000, the Ontario government passed the Safe Streets Act, for instance, which outlawed squeegeeing and panhandling in Ontario. And in passing that act, then Attorney General Jim Flaherty said, when people can't walk down the streets or go through downtown or do their day-to-day business without fear of being victims of crime, it's time for government to act. And that's a really positive statement that I think most Canadians would agree with. But when we take these kind of approaches, community-based approaches to crime prevention, that begs a question: where do people who are homeless fit in? Are they part of the community? Does their safety matter? All of us need safety. All of us need a door that we can close. If we really, really are interested in the safety of our community and of people who are homeless, then we should ensure that people who are homeless have housing, that they have a door that they can close. That's the approach to homelessness that we need to take, not one that makes homeless people the criminals. We need to start with the recognition that they are victims of crime and ensure that they have the safety that every Canadian deserves.